Holly Cotton here, and you guys know I'm all about the female empowerment. I love when I see, especially women, because I'm a little biased, but I love when I see women doing awesome things and being the change and paving the way. All of those things make me want to get that person's story and share it with you guys. So I am so excited. Let me pull out my phone because this lady has so many accolades to her name. So I have Miss Gabi Dixson, who is a professional strongwoman. She has for 3 times had the 5th strongest woman in the world title. She has a 7-time world record holding. And if you guys go and stalk Gabby's page, you'll see she does these deadlifts. Your girl, I thought I was strong until I went to Gabby's page and she made me feel like a little punk. So welcome, Gabby.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Holly. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll just go right into it because one of the things I want to know is anytime someone is doing something great, there was a reason that got them to that point. Something happened that got them to that point. So, how did you just wake up one day and say, you know what? I want to be the strongest woman in the world?
That is, oh wow, there's so many possible answers to that question. I've been strong for as long as I can remember. I actually remember going to like the pediatrician doctor when I was probably like, 8, 9, and the doctor doing all like the little like strength tests, and he's like, oh, like, okay, you're quite strong, Gabby. Like I remember my mom being like, yeah, he didn't say that to like all the other kids. Like you're all strong, but like he was impressed by that. So I remember being young, um, and that happening. And I was in a lot of sports growing up: volleyball, basketball, track and field in high school. I actually got a track scholarship when I was going to college, and I did shot put, discus, hammer, and the weight throw. And I was great there too. Like I loved lifting. I think I started lifting in high school a little bit in preparation for track and field, and I continued that in college. I was always one of the stronger people on the team. There was a few weaknesses I had, but it was for throwing, so I wasn't super worried about like max efforts at that time. After college, where I mean, I could talk about my college accolades. Like they're there too. But I actually had the Olympic B standard in the discus. So I was going to try to go and throw the discus in the Olympics, at least the Olympic trials in the U.S. But they took only the top 16, and I was number 18 to go to the trials. So I worked on that for about a year or so, but kind of felt like I needed a team, and I missed that dynamic of being an athlete and having a team for support. So I took a step back, and I was a normal person for a couple years. That's kind of when I did my little professional singing thing for a minute and hung out there. And I came back around after those 2 years, and I was like, there's still something more to this athletic thing. So I felt like a real push to just start again. I was like, start what though? Like the only thing I know how to do is start training. So that's just what I did. So I started training again, and I had an opportunity to. This is like the long version of this story. I had an opportunity to go and compete at a crossover athlete thing. So they were looking for crossover athletes to go from like track and field, just really good athletes to go and enter like lesser known Olympic sports. It was called Finding the Next Olympic Hopeful, and they had like bobsled, skeleton, track cycling, and rugby. So from there, I did it. I was one of like 100 people who they chose to fly out to Colorado Springs. So I competed there for I think it was like a long weekend or something. And I was in like the top, but I didn't get picked for. I signed up for bobsled skeleton because I thought that'd be a really good fit for me. But when I didn't win that, the rugby people reached out and they're like, "Hey, you should come try rugby." So I actually went and joined a local rugby team in preparation for the rugby camp I had been invited to. Ended up playing rugby for a year and a half, I think, before I decided to move to New Zealand and see if I could really like get more rugby training there. And it was actually there that a friend of mine, a teammate actually, was like, "Hey, yeah, we're doing great, but I'm going to go get some lifting in, but I go to a strongman gym." I was like, well, I want to come. I want to check this out. So I ended up going to her strongman gym, which is where I met my first coach. And I fell in love with that sport, and I continued playing rugby for the year because I was there for a whole year in New Zealand. Um, but once I was in that gym, I was like, oh, this is cool. And after my rugby season, I had been invited to, I think I got fourth place in my first competition, like at Auckland Strongest, which was like pretty good for your first time, right? With all these strong women. And because of that, I got invited to compete at New Zealand Strongest Woman, which was like months later. So I figured after my season, I'd go, I'd train, and I did it. And I actually ended up winning New Zealand Strongest Woman in 2020. So that is kind of the long story slightly shortened, but that's I like it. Yeah, that's kind of just where I picked up
Hey, listen,
competing.
you've done so many great things. It's hard to give a short version. When your list goes on and on, like I mean, it's so long. It's like, okay, I'm gonna cut out this part, but not this part. So I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Now, go back again, Gabby, and explain to me what is the difference between, because there's people that are in the gym, like there's CrossFit, there are, women that lift heavy, there's, like there's a different
Yeah.
levels. So what is strong woman training?
Okay. So to explain strongman, I kind of have to like again explain them all a little bit. So like
No, give us. I want to know all the details because I'm about to start. No.
well, no, please, yeah, it's really fun. So strength training in general is awesome for men and women, but women especially because it's really good for your bones, really good for longevity. There's so many benefits that are to just strength training in general. There are different disciplines or codes, people would call them. There is powerlifting, which is just your squat, your bench, and your deadlift. Those three lifts, and you're training for 1 rep max effort all the time. Um, Sometimes they'll train for volume, so like 80%, how many reps you can do at 80% of your max. But that's powerlifting. And then you have your CrossFit, which is kind of like a mixture of like powerlifting and Olympic lifting. Olympic lifting is what you see on the Olympics. It's just the snatch and it's your clean and jerk lifts. They're training for max effort for those two lifts only. They train other things, of course. They use squats and other things to kind of combine it, but CrossFit's kind of a combination of powerlifting, that, and like some cardiovascular work, and some sprint training. And then you have strongman, which is kind of like all of that combined. I kind of jokingly call it CrossFit for fat kids because it really is. It's a lot heavier weights most of the time. There is a speed element, there is an endurance element, but you're never going to be running more than 50 meters. Like you're not going to be running or swimming or doing anything like drastic, but it's more of an explosive thing with odd objects. There's always an element of something being loaded, so picked up and put somewhere or put over something. There's almost always an overhead event, so that might be like a regular barbell clean and press. It might be a axle bar, which is a thicker bar clean and press. It might be a log. Have you seen those logs where they have those big like
Oh yeah,
metal
yeah,
or
yeah.
wooden
I love
logs?
those.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So that's another overhead event. And there's typically something to do with like a deadlift. So it might be like a regular deadlift or a trap bar deadlift. There's so many different variations of it. But we love things that are flashy and eye catching and weird. And it's something that really keeps someone like me engaged because I've done powerlifting and I've done CrossFit. Um, and I did some Olympic lifting back in college for track and field because it's a very explosive movement. So I actually have dabbled in a little bit of all of those things. But for whatever reason, CrossFit combines all of the things plus my athletic background. So I just love it and it just keeps me engaged because you're always training for something different. I can't think of a single competition that I've done yet where I didn't have to be like, oh, I haven't done that before. Let me figure it out. Like every single time I'm trying something new.
But that's also cool too because I know for me, like that's why I always have to do things that almost kill me in the gym. Like at least once or twice a month, I'm like in the zone where I say to myself, I'm bored. I feel like I'm getting complacent. I'm not doing anything. Am I really strong? Am I still doing it? So I love that mixture that they put in because it forces you to have to use different muscles or different coordination. I love that. And I was also going to say too, I remember watching the strong man competition years ago, and I always wanted to do the ball, like
Yeah,
the heavy
the
ball.
Atlas stones. Yeah, that's a loading event. So that's where you pick it
Okay,
up and then you put it on your lap and then you put it on something or put it over something. Yeah, that's called an atlas stone.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something you do. I always
Yep.
wanted to do that. I
Yep.
don't know why, but I always just wanted to be somebody that picked up that ball.
Ooh, I would love to show you. It's really fun. It's a really fun event. Except for you have to put a lot of sticky stuff on your hands, and that is just, if you're a tactile person, it's not very fun. But it's really fun to be able to lift up heavy stones. So
Right. So, just a little bit of history for me is that so I'm a breast cancer survivor. And so after I got diagnosed with breast cancer, I could do everything like pull-ups, push-ups, and everything. And then after when I had cancer and then I had to get surgery and reconstruction surgery, so they took like skin and like muscle out of my armpit. So it was the most devastating loss because I went from being able to do pull-ups and all of this, and then now I can't stretch or do anything because it's like scar tissue. So that's why I love when I see people like you doing it, and that's what kind of pushed me to start lifting weights too, because I said to myself, even though I can't be this kind of strong again, or maybe I can't do these movements, let me figure out what else I can do to be
yeah.
strong. So I love all of that you're saying. Now, rewind. First event, first time, first failure. Tell us about that.
Okay. First, okay, so this was in New Zealand. And this is, yeah. So I actually remember it quite well because I did really good in like 85%, 90% of the events, but there was one event and it was the monster dumbbell, which is just like a fat dumbbell with a fat handle. And I remember being so frustrated because the person that I had gone to New Zealand with beat me, and she was smaller than me. She just had better like upper body control. And like I always am very aware that like you don't have to be big or small to beat somebody. Like you just gotta do it. And I just remember being like, oh, that sucks. Like, and I just didn't have whatever gumption I needed to like get that overhead press, and it's been like a point of contention for me ever since. Like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get better. I have to get better at this event because I don't want to just fail to like people who are smaller than me because I don't have the same amount of upper body strength.
So did it force you like after so when you do things and you try it out, like again mentioning what you said, because sometimes it might be the first time that you're trying that. So when you go and you attempt to do something, do you say that this is now a motivation? Am I now going to use this as a training? What do you do with that when you do fail or there's an event that you've never done before? How do you take that and implement that into future training?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like right then and there, obviously, like you feel your feelings and you try to feel your feelings and you try to move on to the next event because there's always something, unless it's the last event, of course. But there's always something to get ready for. But then afterwards, you kind of have to take a break, give your mind and body a minute just to kind of like process and assess what happened and like where your holes are. Um, and then from there, you just have to build from it. Like I talk with my coach now and figure out like a strategy of like how we're going to attack this next issue. And a lot of times it's just like time. It's like time under tension and practice and being very patient with yourself because like, yes, there are things that you can go back and like work really hard on and focus on, but the reality is that there's not a whole lot of time to do that in between competitions, especially when you're in season. So you just have to like be patient with yourself and allow that time for your weaknesses to become like to catch up to your strengths and your strengths to still get stronger because you don't want to just like focus only on your weaknesses because then your strengths kind of get lower. So you acknowledge it, you put a little bit of extra emphasis on it, but you still keep chucking away at your things because if you don't do well at the things you're good at, your whole performance is going to sink. So it's strongman is a very you have to be multi-talented. You can't just be good at one thing. So like for me personally, like I'm really good at the deadlift. I'm not the best in the world, but I'm maybe second or third best. I'm really good at the yoke. Maybe not the best, but second or third. You know, I'm right in there for a couple of like really good events, and I'm like maybe like sixth or seventh for like a couple events. But if I can get my sixth or seventh up a little bit higher, that's going to make my overall scores be better and have a better placing at the end of the day. So it's kind of a mind game. If with this sport specifically, like it's yeah. As much as I like to just dive deep into like only doing overhead training and like make sure my overhead is fantastic. I know that it would come with some sacrifices on the other things I'm good at.
So let me just ask you this, and I know this is I add a little funny story because I know that you probably have some funny ones. Because if you look at you, you just look like a regular person, right? So then you look at maybe your social media, and you're like, wow, she is so far from a regular person. So as a regular person, I know there's times that you go to a regular gym or you're working out. So, have you ever had a situation where, because I know for me, sometimes, let me just say, because I have strong legs, not like yours, Gabby, but I have some strong legs. So, I love when I go to do the leg press or something, and the guy is like, oh, let me take off. And I'm like, no, actually, you can add some plates.
Uh-huh.
Excuse you. You
Uh-huh.
know,
Absolutely.
leave all that on and add three more. So, have you had any funny stories where someone maybe misjudged you, and then you said, you know what? Let me just show them real quick that I am strong.
Yeah, I mean, it happens so often that it's not even really notable anymore. Like I know, like my neighbor a couple of months ago was like struggling pushing his car back into his driveway, and it was like a broke down car, and I was like, do you need some help? He's like, no, no, it's all right. And it's like, no, no, really, like this is what I do. And he's like, I guess if you want to. And like literally they could have been like smoking cigarettes on the side, and I just pushed their car up to the driveway. Like it wasn't a big deal at all. They're like, oh,
With one finger, you just
yeah,
like,
there's like I was like wearing like sandals and like my pajamas, and they were like, "Oh, okay, so you do this." I was like, "Yeah, this is my thing. Like this is what I train for. This is pushing cars, picking up cars, saving people, doing that kind of thing. That's my jam." So that's like a more recent example. And like anytime I'm really at the gym, it's kind of funny now because I like a commercial gym because I have my regular gym that I work at and work out at most of the time. But sometimes I just want to go do cardio or go sit in the steam room or whatever. And it's just funny to like walk around and people like they'll look at me and then they'll look at me and they're like, oh, she's built. She's not just some like big lady just trying to get in here and get in shape. She's got a shape. I'm gonna stay out of the
right.
way.
That part, oh my God, I would just love to be a fly on the wall, Gabby. I would just love to
Yeah.
be on a fly on the wall. So let me ask you this also, because there might be someone that's listening to this and maybe they're starting off working out, or they're trying to work out, they're trying to maintain. And I know the hardest thing for women, and I say this all the time, especially as a fitness coach, I explain to women that women just aren't built to hold as much muscle as a man. And it's so hard to maintain strength and muscle mass, especially for women, because we might not eat as much. We're worried about certain things where we may not get as much protein. And so holding on to that muscle mass, especially as we age, you can have a guy go to the gym and not do anything, and it seems like he can hold on to his muscles. But then a woman who works out, it's like it gets hard. Like you have to be intentional about holding on to that muscle mass, or it's gonna go. So give us a little insight into what are you eating, and your protein intake. Like, how do you maintain this muscle mass and strength?
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like a lot of it for me does come by naturally. Like I do. I've been a big boned my whole life. Like I've been a bigger person. And I hear what you're saying, and it's frustrating sometimes because a lot of women want to get in the gym, like, but I don't want to get too bulky. And I'm like, do you know how hard it is to get bulky? Like, do you know? Like, people work years for this. It's not just gonna happen overnight. Like, I just don't want to be too masculine. I'm like, yes, okay, I understand, but that's not how it works. Like, you have to be doing so much. And
You know how hard I work to get these
yeah,
shoulders? Like when I would train, where I used to train, women would be like, but I don't want my shoulders muscular like you. And I was
yeah,
like, baby, they're
it,
not going to be like me.
it
Like
takes
this,
so much.
this is high rep
It
right
takes
here.
so much. And like, I'm, like you said, I look like a normal person. Like, if you didn't like know fitness or know like what some of this muscle would look like on a woman like me, you wouldn't think that I work out. Like, you probably wouldn't even know. So like, and I've been working at it for years. So I'm like, look, like, if you think I'm bulky, then I mean, I am, but like, I don't know. Anyway, back to the question at hand. My my nutrition has been a long-standing journey. It's been up and down. Like I said, I've been an athlete. I've literally came off of rugby. So when I was doing rugby, I was running every day, like miles and miles and miles. And like, I was still a big girl, but I was fit, very, very fit. So switching over to strongman where there's not as much running, of course, I'm going to gain some weight. And I've been figuring out how to manage that while also hitting my protein goals, while also doing my training and having enough energy to go through and do everything. But for me at this point, my main focus is getting 250 grams of protein every single day. That's been, yeah. When I was,
Oh my
yeah,
God, Gabby, I struggle like 120, 140 is, and I'm
yeah.
like, oh my God. At night, I'm just like, let me just do a protein shake because I can't eat
Yeah,
anything
you
else
get tired of
today.
chewing.
Oh
You
my,
genuinely get tired of chewing. And I was doing that from August, for the first time ever consistently. I was doing it from August all the way through November. And my training was amazing. Like, it was the best training I've ever done. And so then I went into my competition season, November through December. And you can't, it's too hard to get that much when you're traveling on the road and flying and everything. So I just kind of like laid back and just focused on competing. And now we're in January again. So, okay, building back up to that 250. I'm starting at like 200, doing a little bit of intermittent fasting, trying to make sure, like, because I have, of course, there's like, I'm in my 30s now, so I've got like inflammation and gut issues and all these different things. So, like, trying to figure it all out at the same time. But you know what? Like, I'm taking it step by step. I have like different things that I'm trying out, and I'm just trying to be more organized with it, but still just trying to hit like 200 grams of protein right now. Trying not to eat too late. Trying to make sure I have enough fuel for my workouts, especially post workout, to make sure I get like my carbs in. And yeah, it's a journey. Like, it's not something I would ever say I've arrived at. I've worked with several nutritionists who I've loved all of them. However, it's really hard to find somebody who I feel can meet me where I'm at, just as a bigger woman, as a bigger athletic woman, as a bigger elite athletic woman. Because it doesn't fit like the typical cookie cutter. Like, if I work with a coach who does more bodybuilding stuff, they're gonna do that. And I have a little bit of eating disorder like stuff. Like, I have some disordered eating, um, just because of all the ups and downs I've had. I went through diet culture. I grew up in the 2000s, so like that was a big thing. Like, I've done the keto, I've done the like fasting for days on end. Like, I've done boot camps and all the different stuff. So like that kind of wrecks your system as well. So right now, my coach and I have just decided to say, hey, let's peel everything back. Let's try to, like, we know the things that are good for you. Let's just focus on the protein because that's what gets you through training. And we'll see what we can look at of ways we can cut, ways we can pace, ways we can get to what we want to be. Because I'd be happier sitting us a bit lighter personally, just for my joints. But it's been quite a journey. It's just something I'm accepting, and like, I want it to be, my nutrition to be something that comes like almost second nature to me, not just something I have to like strive so hard for and like go super, like, like the 75 hard, or people who are doing like really extreme diets. It's like, no, like, I want to be gentle with myself at the same time. My training is hard, my lifting is hard, the world is crazy. I just want like the other parts of my life to be soft and be able to be gentle with myself, and not have to make things so linear. So I'm just kind of scaffolding and stacking right now.
I love that. I love that perspective as well. And I love that because I could see that everything you got to go so hard, so hard, so hard. So what are the things that I can be gentle with? And I'll that's funny because my friend was telling me that because I was talking about it. I was talking about something and he mentioned that and he said everything you do in life you go full force on. So you can't always pick and choose what it is that you're going to go. So of course, you're passionate about this, you're passionate about that. So when you love, you're going to love hard. When you do this, you're going to do this hard because your mindset is you want to win, you want to win. And I'm just like, you don't know me.
No,
You
it's
don't know me.
right. I'm the same way. Like, I love hard. Like, like but we gotta be gentle sometimes. We-
I know. So yeah, 2024, we're going to allow ourselves grace, Gabby. See, we already identified a goal for the year. I love it. I'm going to check back in December. Gabby, did you stick to the plan?
we'll have to come back around. I'll have to come back on again.
Yes, yes. So, what I wanted to ask you also when we were talking earlier, because I think that is so important to also talk about some of the struggles that we have. And I appreciate that you gave us the insight on nutrition and weights and up and down and body image and all of those things, because, of course, they see all of this greatness of you, but there's a struggle that goes with it. So what I wanted to ask is, because it seems like the more popular someone becomes, or the higher achieving a person comes, the more negativity that seems to come in with it as well. And I know you have reels that, have a lot of views on it. You're doing these things. And so, do you ever get any negative feedback, or are there any challenges with your posting and people seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that my life gave me a pretty good leg up on the negativity because, like I said, I have always been big and I'm a woman of color, and I actually grew up in an all white town. And I was looked over a lot for sports and athletics. I would make the team, but they wouldn't play me right away until I had to like work that much harder just to show them my value, show them my worth. I could jump higher than any girl on the team, but they weren't starting me. I could hit better on the volleyball squad than a lot of the girls on the team, but they weren't starting me because I didn't look the part. So I had to work extra hard to get my starting spot, to get my playing time, to convince coaches that I wasn't just like some lazy slob, just because of the way my body looked naturally. Like it was definitely, even in college, like my coach, who is a mentor still to me now, but we had a really rough go in college because he was so convinced that my weight was going to hold me back. Well, I'm sorry, after I win 2 national championships and 14 All-American titles, you can't really say that. So it's I've had a lot of experience with the negativity. I've had a lot of experience with being rejected. In as far as like romance and like people looking at my body and like, oh no, like they want, skinny white girls, and that was just kind of the look growing up. That was what people wanted, and that was where I was. So the comments, while they are can be rude and objectifying and just a myriad of different things. They're mostly just entertaining, and it's just boosting my algorithm, and it's just boosting them more and more. So it's like, like I'll engage. Sometimes I'll be a little bit cheeky. Someone's like, I'm not impressed. I was like, no one asked you to be. Like, why are you here then? Like, you don't have to comment. And like, there's been a couple of them. I call them little zingers. And I'm like, when I have time, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just respond to a few of these just to like see. And like, very rarely do people actually respond back to me. But yeah, I just see it as engagement, and I want to the girls and the kids in general who are going through this. They're already going through this. They understand. Like they feel me. They went through the same things. So like this stuff, yes, it's impactful, but like the people who are saying things don't have lives of their own. They don't have things that they're working for. And like one of my favorite things to say back to them is, I hope you got what you needed out of this interaction. Like whatever it was you needed out of this, I hope you got it. Like I wish you well, because nobody in their right mind would talk like that. Nobody who has been privileged to have been raised in a good home, or have been raised or made aware of people who could be stronger than them, is going to be saying things like that. So I try to take a little more perspective, take a step back approach when I'm in my right headspace too. Like if I'm feeling, zesty, I might say more stuff. But like for the most part, it's just like, you guys, I feel bad for them. Like they're just in a space where they think that saying things like this is okay, and or makes them feel better, or think that saying things like that makes them feel better. And I know it doesn't. Like they just have to deal. I'm not going anywhere.
Right. It's fun when I like when someone says something on one of my posts or whatever. I'll delete the comment or something, but sometimes if I'm in the mood, because I'm like, okay, well, let me give you wanted your 10 seconds of
Yeah.
clout, you got it. I'm about to reply, and then let me just
Yep.
set the precedence for anyone who wants to
Yep.
come after you, because I
Well,
got time
and
today.
sometimes things are like my most recent video that went viral. It's like the same comment keeps getting said, so I'll wait till like 5 or 6 people make the same comment, and then I'll just pick one and be like, "This is my statement on this," and they're like, and then I look and I watch, and people, there's usually a couple hundred likes on my one statement response for like all the people who said it. It's like, if you're not smart enough to go and read all the responses and like look at the comment, actually look at the comments and look at the original person's post, like their responses, then you're not very smart in general. So it's like, why do I bother? Why would I waste my time?
That part. And also, Gabby, I wanted to go back to what you said. And it's so funny because my dad visited from Boston for Christmas, and we had a whole powwow about this. And I literally said the same thing to him when you were talking about growing up. And so I was explaining to him, I said, I the words that I chose were something similar to, I've had to fight my whole life and I am exhausted from fighting. And so I had the same experience as you know, being around, being multi-race, being around a, you know, predominantly white on one side, and then I'm the one that's always the oddball and the black sheep, and I'm coming in and I'm, you know, and I just told my family this for Thanksgiving as well. I said, as successful as I am, I have a master's degree. I mean, I have money, I have this, I have that. As successful as I am, when I come here and I sit at the table with you and your families and your friends, the trashiest person at that table will still get more respect than I will. I will still have to prove myself just walking in. And
Yeah.
I look like
Yeah.
this and I still and it's still there. So I love that you gave us that perspective of your life because you have such a great energy. So how has growing up like that, dealing with this, dealing with the backlash, doing all of that, how have you maintained having this positive energy that radiates when you talk? Like, how have you not allowed this to harden you where you're still Gabby that's smiling and doing and
Yeah.
getting just got the jovial vibes? Like, well,
Well,
how did you stop
I mean, to
that?
be fair, we're in an interview, so I am up. I'm on it. I'm ready. Like, I won't say I'm like this all the time, but people would tell you, like, if I'm in the gym, like most of the time, I am pretty like on it. But like, there's sad moments too, because it's like, man, like it would be nice to like walk in a room and not just see someone. Oh, there's that fat black girl. You know, there's just things that come before me that before I even open my mouth that people are gonna think or guess about me. And so fighting that is something that I've chosen to kind of take a step back from. Like, think what you want. Like, that's not my responsibility anymore. Like, I am who I am, and if you want to give me a chance or or a say in how you feel about me, great. If not, we're not meant to have a conversation. We're not meant to be around each other. And there are going to be situations in my life where I'm going to have to prove myself, quote unquote. Um, and that's fine. Like, I'm ready for that. But in the places where I have a choice, I'm not gonna stick my neck out for someone who's undeserving, who's already gonna have these tallies up against me. So I've kind of taken a step back from the fight, if that makes sense. Like, I'm choosing my battles. I'm choosing the places where I want to put my energy in that space. Like, if I know I want to get a sponsorship with such and such, okay, I know I have to act a certain way and speak a certain way in those moments. But when it's just me and my people, or just me in my own apartment by myself, like, I'm just gonna do me. Like, I don't have to assign a feeling for when I walk in a room and people look at me. That's just what happens. That's just what is. And I can't change that. So I'm going to enjoy my time with who I came with, whether that's by myself or with a friend or whatever, and keep it pushing.
I love that analogy too. I don't have to assign myself a feeling. You know what? I'm
Really?
stealing that, Gabby, just so you know. I love that. I love that. Okay, so give us the insight. What are your goals 2024? And because obviously everyone wants to support you now, because you know we have to about to put you on the Holly Cotton conversation. So
Yes.
everyone is like, I love her. So what is 2024 for Gabby? What are you working on this year? Like, what's the immediate things that Gabby is working on?
Okay, so listen, last year my goal was to become undeniable in the sport. I think I did just that. I got a bunch more records. I got fifth in the world again. Like, I'm right in there. This year it has started out a bit rough for me just because there's some competition. There is a competition that I really wanted to be a part of, but was not invited to for reasons unknown to me and any of the other girls in the top 10 right now. Like, we're like, why isn't Gabby invited? So that's been quite frustrating for me, because the whole thing was to become undeniable, kind of specifically for this competition. But now I'm in a space where, okay, I'm just going to stay in my lane. I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to expand my platform. I'm going to get some sponsors who are actually going to help me move forward with my life, not only with like building my brand and everything, but with like helping my financial. Like, I want to buy a house one day. Like, I want to build a brand that goes past like where I rank on the podium. So my thoughts this year, obviously want to get a lot stronger. I want to get some more records. I want to do all that kind of good stuff and compete my butt off. But I want to make some moves. I want to figure out how to partner with not just brands, but like, how do I want to put this? I want to partner with people who are in alignment with me, who are going to help um, reach the people we're supposed to reach. And for me, if I had somebody like me to look up to growing up, it would have been a lot easier. It would have been really nice to have somebody other that was like a plus size athlete to look up to. The closest thing to a plus size athlete that I had to look up to was Serena Williams, and we both know she is not plus size.
She's just thick.
but
She's just thick.
they were calling her thick or overweight or stuff when I was growing up. I remember that. Like, that was who I was looking up to, and I'm like, damn, like, they're talking about her. What about me? Like, how am I gonna get my name out there? How am I gonna be an athlete that I want to be? I wanted to be a professional athlete since I was a child. My mom sent me a piece of paper like that I had like written like a workshop for Girl Scouts, and like, I want to be a professional athlete. I want to go to the world. And I was like, who was I? This like little 8-year-old girl saying I want to be a professional. Like, what? Where did that come from? So I want to be the me that I needed. That is my biggest and best thing. Like, that's my biggest goal. Just putting my name out there and letting like little kids see me and be like, oh, she's strong. A girl can be strong. A big girl can be strong. A big black girl can. Like, there's so many things, right? So that's who I want to be for these kids. And also I was laughing with my mom the other day. We just had lunch, and I was like, well, when I first started being an athlete, it's like, oh, I just want to get a bunch of free stuff. Like, if it could be, call up brands and just get free stuff, that'd be great. But now I have too much free stuff. Like, I have a lot of free stuff. And then I was like, okay, well, I want to. Oh, what was the other thing I wanted to do? Oh, I can't remember the second thing. But I got that too. And I was like, okay, dang. Okay, I've got the free stuff. I've got this other thing. Now I want to do something with it. Like, I've got a lot of t-shirts, I've got a lot of free gear, I've got a lot of stuff, and I love it. I'm grateful for the brands that I'm partnering with, but I want to build a life for myself and my future family, because like, I want to have kids one day. But I want to gonna have to have a home, gonna have to have a backyard. I want to have a dog. I want to have time and money to raise that dog, and also have someone watch him while I'm traveling. So like, I'm wanting to build not just, my platform, but I also want to build my life and my future where I can, move out of my little studio and do something big for myself. So big brand deals would be awesome. Alignment deals would be awesome. I think the right opportunities are going to come my way. I know this. I'm not sure where. So I'm just really open to whatever is supposed to be for me is going to show up, and it's going to be great.
Well, one, I think that the key thing that you said about this year is that you are going to be intentional with what you're doing. And I think a lot of times people are so caught up in being successful that they just want the success. They don't know what happens when they get that. So, like you said, it's the same thing with lifting, doing a deadlift. Okay, so put 245s on, deadlift it. What's the next step? Deadlift more? Am I
Yeah.
trying to get stronger, or do I just want to keep repping out the same weight? So I think it's intentional. And also, I had a podcast guest, and he said something that I think will help you. He said, whatever you're looking for is looking for you.
Yep.
So just keep speaking it out there,
Yep.
saying it and searching for it. But the key to it is that you have to know what it is that you're looking for. And I think now that you do know, it's just
Yeah.
y'all are two ships with the lights in the sea, and
Yeah.
now you're gonna find each
And
other.
I'm learning also this year how to say no to stuff that's not in alignment too. Like, because when you're first starting, it's like, oh yes, send me this. Oh yes, sure, I'll do that deal. Sure, I'll do that show. Sure, I'll blah 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 blah. And like, I'm starting to say, actually, this isn't this. My gut's telling me that this isn't for me. So I'm gonna move in a different direction. And I actually just did that this morning with what could be a pretty big opportunity for somebody, but I just don't think it's for me. So I'm just waiting for the things that are like really like, I just have to feel good. And like you asked me earlier, like, I do have a relationship with God. Like, we talk, we get on the lowdown, and if it's just not right, if I don't feel a sense of peace about something, I'm not going to do it. And that's another way that I keep my joy too. Is like, that's just where it is. Like, not a lot can make me falter in that.
Right. No, and I totally get it, especially in once you get to this influencer phase, because
Hmm.
I'm the same way. It's like I have a brand, and yeah, it would be easy for me to go, especially because I try to keep my stomach flat and look
Right.
cute. So I always have like bikini lines and lingerie and this and that, and I'm like, I cannot post that on my page.
Right.
My kids follow me, and their
Right.
friends follow me.
Right.
I
Well,
can't do
yeah,
that.
and like for me, I can't go with brands like they're like, oh yeah, we only go up to a 2X. Like I can't, like I'm not gonna go to a brand that's not size inclusive. I'm not gonna work with you. I can't do it. I'm not gonna do a protein company that uses ingredients that I don't think are good and healthy for people. Like I'm not gonna do that. So like there's multiple things too. Like I'll post in my underwear. I don't care. I'll do that. But like,
Well,
but you
Gabby,
have
you're
different.
still young and fine. I'm old and I got grown kids, so I got to be respectful
Yeah,
of the
but
family
there's
now.
a fine line too for me too, because like I want to do that because I also feel like people need to see someone like me doing that. And so while it might not
Yes,
be the thing that I'm the most comfortable with, like I do it because I do think that it's good for me and the people who follow me to like know that that's a
yes,
possibility.
and it's that self confidence. Believe me, I'm gonna like the picture. I'm a heart eye it. I'm gonna be like, go Gabby. I know that's right. I love it. I love it.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes, yes.
okay, so just to wrap up, for anyone that wants to follow you, support you, any kind of way, how can people follow, like, and support you?
Okay, so you can. My number one probably is my Instagram, Gabby Girl, GABIGRL _ Pro Strongwoman. From there, you can get on my Linktree and find most of my other things I do. You can find my Cash App. You can find my Venmo if you want to shoot me a little something. That's cute. That's cute too. I'm not too cute for that. Um, I also have. I'm working on getting like quarterly newsletters out for folks who are interested in sponsorship long term. I have my terms written out of like how my baseline pricing for things is. If you want to work with me, if you have something you want me to wear or project or something on my feed, like just let me know and we can talk about it. I'm also a personal trainer, so if you want virtual training online, I offer that as well. Um, what else? I have a TikTok. I'm starting to build a website. It's just one page right now, but it's GabbyDixsonStrong.com, and it's got all of my accolades on there, all my current accolades on there, my world records and what they're in, and a brief bio and like what I'm about. So you can reach me there, and all my contact stuff is just online. So Instagram's the best way to like actually reach out to me, send me a DM. I also have my email on my Instagram too. So there's multiple ways to get a hold of me. Just say hey, and let's do it.
Yeah, I always tell people that too. Instagram is my business page. I'm like, just hit me on my business page, because everything you can find, all the links, the whatever. That's like my bit, whatever. Just hit me on
Yep,
Instagram.
yep.
I love it.
All my people I'm associated with are already on there. That all my codes are on there. If you need protein or whatever, I've got that. So yeah, just reach me there.
All right, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Gabby,
Yeah.
for sharing your story, motivating anyone who maybe is feeling like they should skip the gym today. Because I was like, you know what? Let me go get my life together.
Yes.
I'm about to go. I'm about to go find my protein, because now you got me feeling like I'm a little punk with my protein. Let me. I gotta get.
You got it.
I
I
gotta get
believe
it
in you.
together. I love that. I love that. And then I will also have Gabby's social media links in the podcast notes and everything that she said, her website, all of that stuff. I'll have clickable links in the podcast notes as well. So make sure you guys scroll down in those podcast notes and you can actually just click and go straight to her page. So that is Miss Gabi Dixson. Thank you,
Thank you
Gabby.
so much for having me again. Thank you.